So yeah, let's just sit down and talk about whatever. As always, there's no agenda, there's no nothing. I sent you a message ahead, and I said like, oh, if you want to, you can think about some talking points. You could come up with provocative stuff because I also know that you like to how do you say that in English? Like poke people and
Yeah.
make them react in kind of like cut through the noise, right? Everyone is already so saturated, but you obviously still manage to get to people and make them stop for a second. And I think that's a really, really great thing. I enjoy that when I look at your content. And that's the reason why we kind of like thought, let's do this together and see where it goes, you know. And that's my freestyle introduction for you without just jumping out of the bed and hopping on to the screen. So I hope I'm doing a good job. And now please, the stage is yours. Give the people a small introduction from your side, who you are and all this kind of stuff, because there might be someone who doesn't know you, you know. So
Oh, wait. Is this being recorded?
yeah, we're recording, yeah.
Oh, um, I was wearing like pajama bottoms, so like you can't see below here, can you?
There's a tiny spy cam below the table, but that one's not recording right now.
Okay, putting my pillow here. um,
It needs to be as
that,
authentic. It needs to be as authentic as it can get, you know. So don't worry about this. That's part of the
well,
show.
in that case, this shirt's coming off.
Yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
Um, no, my name is Cody. I'm also known as the Oolong Drunk, and um, I was not prepared in the way I should have been. I'm wearing pajamas, so don't. I'm usually like more dressed up, so don't. This is not my normal, but I also think tea time should be relaxed. I think your analysis of my tea blog is correct. I sometimes um, instigate stuff, not like intentionally, but I always find a way of seeing stuff in the tea industry or the tea community that always rubs me the wrong way. And I take like a minor inconvenience and I blow it up into like this like thing where I make it seem like it's a massive problem. So like it's not. I don't know. I think I sometimes I write things that are great, and sometimes I write things that are very like melodramatic and should be taken with like a grain of salt.
Why do you think though that those things are um, you make them, you use those words like I'm paraphrasing, making them big or blowing them up, but there has to be a reason, right? Like it's not like you're not making up random stuff. It probably means like they're important to you.
That's true, because like in the moment, I realize like I think certain issues are probably worse than what they are. It's not until like a month later I look back and go like, "Wow, Cody, you overreacted." So um, I also think the tea industry and the tea community is so niche enough as it is, because tea is like one of the most drank beverages around the world. So I don't think people would inherently think like, oh, there's a community for it. I just thought it's everywhere, you know. And I see a lot of things that are in the community and industry, and I kind of came in with the culture that was already set, at least like in America, you know. And there's a lot of things in American tea culture that I've always questioned, like why has no one called this out? How come no one's brought light to this? How come we all just go with it? Because I think there's room for honesty and more acceptance and less snobbery. And I see certain things in the world of tea, and I think, has nobody said no before? Like, has anybody ever stood up to like snobbery and like companies who bully? Like, has anyone ever like advocated for themselves up to this point? So I think I always end up being like the black sheep, so to speak, in so many ways, because like I will say things that like others might be thinking, but I do it in a way that's probably a lot more harsh than it's warranted. I could probably calm down a little at times.
You're getting older. Maybe time will calm you down, you know. But my question for you is like, how do you think, or do you think this is the phenomena that you just described is limited to? I have a lot of questions. Like you really already spitting a lot of interesting things, but that one as a starter. Do you think this is really limited to the tea community? What you described, like people not standing up, people not speaking out, people just going about their lives, you know. It's a somewhat of a suggestive question, but yeah.
I think I'd like to think hopefully the older I get, the calmer I become, but I think it's just like the more irritated I get. So I don't see my I don't see myself calming down anytime soon, at least. So um, I want to maintain the silliness, but maybe just do it less harsh. But
you know, another way of looking at this could be that you live your life, you make your experiences, you see things, and you just kind of like sharpen your senses, and you come to certain conclusions. And when you're 15, you're busy with the tiny world around you, right? Like you just do stuff. You you want to enjoy yourself. But the older you get, you understand the importance and the significance of certain things. You understand the impact. Like there's something happening. There's a certain behavior of a person, and then you understand. Okay, it has an impact, and then it rubs you. Like it irritates you, and you think like, hey, that's just that's wrong, or that's unfair, or that's not the way it's supposed to be. And that's a whole different discussion. If there is even right wrong, if you know your value system is the one that should be in place and not someone else's, you know, maybe the way it is totally fine. Like who are we to judge, right? But this aside, I totally get it, you know, like I have this the same feeling. And why I was asking is I want to kind of like extrapolate, is that a word in English? You kind of like zoom out, and I think what you describe is just a symptom. It is happening in the tea industry, but actually it is like omnipresent. It's everywhere, you know. If it's where you work, like I think you're working in a bank, I'm sure there's stuff going on that you disagree with strongly, and people also see that, but they don't stand up, you know. It was the same for me when I was still working in real estate. There was so much shit going on that I thought like, man, this is so inefficient, this is so stupid, this is so wrong. Like we're harming this, we're not treating people the way they should be treated, and so on. The list goes on, you know. But usually people gossip during lunch break, but when there is a meeting and you can actually really voice your opinion, you can actually really like contribute to change, everyone shuts up, you know. Everyone just sits there and thinks, oh, I don't want to risk my position, I just want my next paycheck, and you keep your mouth shut. And I think that's the same wherever you go, and that's an interesting thing to discuss, I think.
I think you're absolutely right, because just to go back to something you said, I think I answered the first part of your question earlier. So if I skip over and don't answer something that you asked, it's not intentional. It's just I feel like you're hitting on so many.
No worries.
I could talk endlessly about so many things you've already brought up. So if you need me to stay on track, interrupt me.
No. It's really super freestyle. Like, just go ahead. You know, this is not a professional thing. We're not professional. We're not serious. We're just random dudes, you know, bringing some brightness to this dark place called Earth.
She's not a random dude. No.
I'm gonna zoom into her. Can I actually? I'm still trying to figure it out. Do we have the? Yeah, go ahead.
Say though something you said. It's like whenever I'm younger, you're right. Like we have singular experiences, but as we get older, some of the singularities we notice are like more symptomatic of a larger issue. So like when I was a tea blogger, well, I still am a tea blogger, but when I was starting out in tea blogging, I would see the behaviors of certain tea companies and tea people and think, man, that one individual or that one individual tea company, they're an asshole. Like, they're terrible. Like, I would never associate with them. But then, like, now that I've been in it, coming up, like, I've worked in tea for 10, 11 years. I don't, I always blur the line of when I say I work in tea because I can't remember when I started working in it. But I started blogging and being an educator 8 years and counting at least. I know that. And like it's kind of like the more I'm in it, the more I realize like those single moments that happen in the beginning, they're not singular. It's more bigger picture. It's more of like an issue that radiates between multiple areas within the tea industry.
But here's the tricky man. Like, give me a second. How can I want to figure out how can I switch this when I talk. That. Oh, maybe like that. Okay. Here's the catch. Like the other day we were talking. Neldon and Shao and I we had the same kind of chat. And one of his core messages was, and core statements was, I don't know if you remember, he said like, he wishes for people to just be more relaxed and let everyone drink the tea they want to drink and the way they want to drink, and a little bit like similar to you, less snobbery and more acceptance and more tolerance and all that. And I totally agree with this. At the same time, I find it difficult to figure out the line between change and motivating people to change towards like a more sustainable way, towards like smaller operations, away from the big companies. So kind of like I want to interfere. I want to show people, okay, look, there's different options. At the same time, I don't want to tell people how to live their lives, you know? So that's the tricky part for me. Where's the line? How to, right? Like, do you want?
I think I don't want to interrupt. So she was gonna.
She was too shy. She didn't want to. She's still warming up, you know.
I was gonna say, I think the way the culture is the responsibility of the industry and the consumer. Or when I say consumer, I don't mean like my aunt who will go to the grocery store and buy tea. Like she has no connection to the tea industry. She just enjoys tea because that's what she buys at the store. But I mean like industry wise, like the consumer, like on our level, like my level as a tea blogger, and then it goes up to tea industry professionals and companies. I think it's everyone in that has some sort of relation to, not relation, they partake in the system as it is, and it's up to all of us to change it. So like I 1,000% agree with Neldon. We want to be able to enjoy what we enjoy and the way that we enjoy it. But there's so many tea companies, and it kind of starts in two places. So many tea companies, like massive ones, they have their brewing instructions and they say, this is the right way to brew tea. And then you'll go to another tea company and they say, no, this is the right way to brew tea. And then you go somewhere else and they say, this is the right way to brew this tea. But I don't see any companies saying, like, brew tea this way and then experiment on your own. I never see that on packaging. I never see, like, in the grocery store or, like, on any online tea websites, I never see anyone say, experiment with parameter. And they don't say that because they want the consumer to be dependent on them for having the right answer. And if they're the right answer, they're the right one. And that kind of like, that kind of like coats the customer to believing like, oh, well, they're the right one because, you know, I believe in them and drink them and they say so. So why wouldn't I question it? I like their tea. So why would I ever question it? But I think when I say it's like also on the consumer, I think it's also on the consumer to just like accept things as they are. And so like, as an example, there's a Tea Expo, can't say which one, but there's a Tea Expo and they've been notorious for being difficult to work with. They've been notorious to
World Tea Expo 2023.
I didn't say it.
Oh, caught you.
Caught you. They've been notorious like being terrible to bloggers and educators and journalists and even the people and vendors who like rent spaces at this expo. They're terrible to them. And someone messaged me like a week ago and they said, like, I'm going to go to this expo. Are you going? And I said, no. And they said, oh, why not? And I sent them my article. Like, here's reasons why I won't go back and support this company. And they said, well, I don't want to support them either, but there's no other convention out there. And I said, well, yeah, most cities have their localized tea conventions. Like there's the Seattle Tea Expo, Northwest Tea Expo. There's one in Kansas City. There's one in Portland, San Francisco. Houston had one at one point. And I just said, like, Chicago's about to have one. There's one in Toronto. Like, support your local. And they said, yeah, but everyone else supports the big one. So we can go and support the big one and hate on them at the same time because there's not another alternative. And I think you're indirectly supporting their terrible behavior that trickles down to everyone else. So I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
mean
both.
that's an easy one. Come on, that's really, and I'm already sorry for saying that, but that's just stupid. That is just stupid, and it's just coward behavior because you can't sit like, I don't know, like I don't want to get too political, but you can't kind of like vote for a party that stands for, I don't know, war and violence and bloodshed and whatever, and then you vote for them and then you say, yeah, I only vote for them so that I can criticize them from the inside or shit like that, you know? Like, no, man, like that doesn't work. Like, it's really that
Right. So
simple. If you go there, you support them. It's as easy as that.
but it's not just like with the expo. There's so many people I've seen say, like, oh, I don't like the owner of this tea company, who's the face of the tea company. I don't like them. I don't like their beliefs. They're not a good person, but they have good teas, and I can't buy these teas elsewhere. So, like, I might as well go ahead and buy the tea because I enjoy it. So, whenever I say, like, it's like on the industry and the consumer for like allowing this negative behavior to happen, I say it's like on the industry because they're the ones creating this toxic behavior. Then I blame the consumer because they accept the toxic behavior and so many people acknowledge like this is not right, but it's going to affect me. There's like a selfish level of this all on every level, you know.
Yeah, what I want to tap into, it's a topic I discussed with Shao, I think yesterday, like, and I think I want to make a separate video even because I find it so interesting, is the term delayed gratification. And that is something, I think it relates to a lot of stuff. And what we have been conditioned, especially over the last, I don't know, like 20 years, I think with the digitalization, internet, you know, everything becomes accessible so quickly that you just click a button and you have it. And you have become so used to this understanding that what you just mentioned, people, you could argue with them. You could tell them, yeah, you don't have to support them. Maybe you don't get like the best tea right now, but if you put in work, if you put in effort, if you see the scenery change, the community change, and those best teas, maybe someone else will have them. Maybe you learn something. Maybe you make different connections. Maybe you get into a community that has more interesting tea, maybe not so famous, maybe not so well marketed, but maybe more suitable for you even. But people are not willing to put in the work. They're not willing to go like the difficult path in order to, you know, like develop, find all those sources, like really message people and get to know them, like really do the work, you know, and then enjoy a cup of tea. They want it right now. And they want the easy way. Oh, that website, it's not like 3 clicks away, then I'm not going to support them, you know. And that way of thinking, I think that's one of the roots why things are the way they are.
Yeah. And I want to go back and say, like, someone like my aunt, she'll go to the grocery store, see tea on a shelf and buy it. She doesn't know there's like tea bloggers. She doesn't know there's tea conventions. Like, I don't think the everyday tea drinker like that is the problem. I think it's like people like me, because like how many times I can count, like I've been a part of this problem because I can count so many times where like I was supportive of a company and as it turned out they were actually very destructive to the industry and I had no idea. So, but like I didn't do that research beforehand to go, oh, maybe I shouldn't talk about this person's tea to my audience because they don't need the support. Like their actions are not, you can't support their actions. And like I've been a part of that problem because it's kind of like what you said, like I didn't do my research. And that's something that I learned along the way or try to do now, you know.
Get you. One thing before I let Xiao in, because she needs to contribute. She needs to warm up. She's like busy brewing tea, and we can talk about the tea a little bit in a second. But one last thing, because I really enjoy it, to have this like critical, kind of like more, you know, I don't want to say angry, but more energetic talk about, because I'm really not a person. I mean, I'm all for peace and love, and like really, I mean it. I'm really like a friendly guy actually. But I think it's equally important to point out shit that's just not right. You know, you need to put it on the table, and you need to like really turn it 360 degrees and look at it and understand it, and then you can find a solution. It has nothing to do with offloading anger or shit like this, really. It's, for me, it's really, I want to understand things, and I want people to, let's just discuss, you know, that's my intention. And do you want to share now? Or, okay.
Yeah.
Don't forget the...
I can just talk.
Yeah.
I want to share that because in the beginning you mentioned you're the black sheep, and actually in the past I was the white sheep. I was a person who follow a system or a mass, and I feel safe, and I don't question things. Yeah, so I totally understand how the white ships are thinking about. It's really about just being lazy and want to be safe. And it's because throughout years, he influenced me to think in a different way and to discover things from different perspectives and not tolerant, but more like in the past, I was super afraid to discuss things or like some sensitive topic, but now from his training I feel it's actually very positive to point out something that the white sheep don't dare to discuss. And it's also relate to my tea journey. Like in the beginning, based on the white sheep perspective, I want to find good tea. So I start with big companies or something, some companies that are famous in the system that maybe they're top 10 people you will know in Taiwan or top 10 companies. But after I try out the teas or dive into more different people, and there was a point I questioned myself, like, are those teas the tea I like? Because actually, I didn't really enjoy it. And in the beginning, I thought it's because I don't understand tea so much. So maybe it's my problem. But the half of our tea discovery, I found out there are so many, actually much better tea quality or tea masters. They're not be seen in the system. They live somewhere very quietly, and you need some friends of friends, you know, some contact, and you can reach them. They're not be seen on internet, and this talking to them or learn from them, it really actually helps me more to understand what tea is. And this is, I think, most of people they don't see. They only see the system and what's there easily to be seen. Yeah. So actually, what the tea we're looking for is the what's not there. Yeah.
I do want to say though, wait, before you hand off the microphone, wait, I want to respond to you. I want to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with being like a white sheep. I think I think like people like my aunt who will go to like a grocery store and buy something off the shelf. Like no, I don't think when you sell a product mass like to that extent, like you can't as a consumer like Google every single brand of every single thing you put in your shopping cart. Like I don't think that's realistic. But I think something that you touched on, which I think is amazing, is like the more you got invested, the more you became knowledgeable. And I think that's great. And now you're wanting to find teas that and people who aren't talked about. So you want to bring them to light. And I think what you're doing is great and it's amazing. And I think that will actually grow the tea industry. But there's so many other people, not like you, but like they don't do that. They're only in it for themselves. They only want to see profit. And um, I think what you're doing is going to help grow the industry. There's not enough people who will bring light to the people who don't have light on them, that need the light shed on them. And you're doing it in like a positive, constructive way too. So I like what you're doing.
Thank you. And I want to, because I now I look back what I said, it sounds like I'm very like, oh, black sheep is good and white sheep is not good. It's not what I mean. I think because being white sheep, and now I don't say I open up my eyes, but I would say there is another world or perspective to look at it. And it's all get back to our choice. So there's no good or bad, or it's as you said, yeah, being a white sheep and being in a different kind of happiness, it's also their choice, and I don't judge their lifestyle. Yeah, it just we would like to at least offer a different perspective, and people can have a one more choice. Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't think there's a lot of option for choice and a lot of option for knowledge. And I've actually been disappointed with the tea blogging community for so long. I felt so let down. I believe there's so many great tea bloggers out there, but one of the things I've noticed when talking to other tea bloggers, like in private, they see some very toxic things, like very, very disgusting things in the industry, and they don't speak out on it. In fact, some of them will see it and go back. Like I know tea bloggers who were personally victimized by an event or like the expo. They're returning to the expo again. And when I kind of ask, like, why would you go back and support that? Why, like, not just them, but other companies too. Like, why would you go back and support these people? Like, they're this way, and like, there's never a good answer. I think like I see a lot of things. It's like, well, if I speak out against it, I'll be the only one. Or I had another blogger friend tell me, like, well, it's not going to look good for my blog to call out people. And it's like, well, if you're not going to call out the individual organization and people, which I understand, because like that opens another door, but you can still call out the behavior. You can say, I saw this, like vaguely, like I saw this at an event, or I saw this behavior at a shop. I want to speak out on it. And they don't do that. So like I do see myself often like being the only one like saying like, oh, I was talked to rudely by this company and disrespected in this way. Like, here's why it's wrong. And I noticed like I'm the only one talking about that behavior. But then as I turn around from like said company, I see so many other tea drinkers and bloggers who are also victimized by this like one company. And they refuse to speak about them, or much less the behavior. And it's like, then if you're not speaking out on it and you have a platform and you still support them, then like you're a part of the problem. But then I look like, because I'm the only one doing it, I look like I'm a lunatic. I mean, I am a lunatic, but you know what I mean? Like, then now I'm the black sheep,
Then what in your opinion, I mean, what would be a healthy way, and because we don't want to mimic or copy toxic behavior, right? So what would be a healthy way to challenge big companies, the industry standard, all this, one thing that particularly like really, really bugs me is when I see those big tea accounts, and there's that guy sitting in front of the camera, you know, and he looks all friendly and all caring on, oh yeah, tea is so important to me and this and that, but it's just such an obvious lie. It's just so, you know, and you think like, man, like all you care about is money. It's so fucking obvious, you know. So you know, I want to comment on this kind of stuff. At the same time, I stop myself, I hold myself back, because I think that's just actually just the toxicity that he's like sending out. I receive it, and then I don't want to play that ping pong game. So I'm wondering, and I haven't found an answer yet, maybe you have something to say to this, how to kind of like challenge them in like a non-toxic way.
I have two answers. So I think if you're a tea business like you, I would go about it differently than a consumer or blogger like me. If you're like me, like you have more of an option, you have more freedom, because like I'm not gonna profit off of talking about competition like a business would. So I think if you're like a blogger, writer, even someone like on social media, and you didn't like the behavior of someone, you could call them out on it directly. Might spark drama. And I know people who have called out other personalities publicly, and it does create some rift. But and if you don't want to call someone out directly, you can call out the behavior. So you can be vague and say like, well, I've seen this behavior. And it doesn't have to say it applies to that person. It could just be vague and say like, I'm not going to say who it is, but I've seen this behavior. Let me say why I don't like this type of behavior and why it's wrong, you know? And that's where I think if you don't have the freedom as a blogger or a consumer, that you can't speak out on the behaviors you see. Because like you're not calling someone out directly, you're just saying, I noticed this thing that's not good. For a lot of tea companies, there was very famously a massive tea company. They held alternate accounts on a social media platform, and they would write comments about other tea companies and how toxic they were. And it later got aired out that these alternate accounts was this one tea company talking about competitors. And that's not right. I think a lot of tea companies, they can do two things too. They can call out the behavior as well. They're like, hey, we noticed this. It didn't sit right with us. And the other thing I would also say is be the change. I think we're all going to see something in the industry very differently. But I think if a tea company wanted to call out a toxic behavior, the best thing to do is to be the opposite of that. Is to like be the trailblazer and say, I'm not going to act like that because I don't like that behavior and I don't see other people doing different. So I'm going to be the one to do different and hopefully spark a trend, be a trailblazer, and like create my own path. And I don't see enough companies doing that.
I give you an example, and that's not me bitching or complaining. You know, like we don't have any issues with being patient, and we understand we're new. You know, we're the new kid, and it just takes time, and we don't have that like mega money to pump into advertising and all this kind of stuff. And it's also not what we want. We want to grow organically through something like this right now. Talk to you, someone sees it, and like really slowly, you know, that's how we set it up from the right from the beginning. But the one thing that frustrates me and that like makes me question once in a while is because you mentioned be the change and just go the way you want to go, and I agree with this. However, it's clearly visible when we put out posts that conform with let's say the average tea community's liking. You know, we take beautiful pictures of the tea, the light hits the tea beautifully, you know, as a cup on the table, and you just sit there and there's a friendly face or something like this, you receive likes. People like that kind of stuff because it doesn't trigger any deeper question, anything. And then when I post something and I write something critical to the society, to the industry, to whatever, you know, and pair it with like a image that is maybe not 100% directly related to tea, more like something that you have to, you know, go around the corner that symbolizes something. you receive like what, like 10 likes, 15 likes, 20 likes, you know, like something you just, plus the algorithm, like it's just people don't see that, you don't get that exposure. So kind of like you sit there, you think for days sometimes about a certain topic, you curate that post, you know, and you hope to reach a person, and it's just silence coming back, you know, and this feeling is like, man, you know, and that makes me question, like, okay, so how authentic can you really be, at the same time have enough money to get food on the table? You know, it's a very, very tricky thing, like in our situation. Yeah,
I think there's a good balance. There definitely is, and I I think one thing I would think is like social media in general for the tea industry is so limited. I think at this time, Lipton is one of the biggest tea brands in the world. And on Instagram, they only have 119,000 followers as of now. And given that they're one of the biggest tea brands in the whole world, you would think they would have like millions of followers, but they don't. So I think um, I would just like, I've told so many new people going into blogging this, like if you have like 10 people like your post and you have 1,000 followers, like, you know, that's kind of like a decent number, given that we like massive tea brands, they're not pulling in like 40 million followers like beauty brands, you know. um I know that because tea and tea culture, especially on social media, is more of a niche. I would say like that would be considered like micro influencing, but
let
there
me
is
jump in there. Why do you even think it is like this? Because tea is like, it's a commodity. It's like, it's so the consumption on a like world scale is up there. It goes through the roof, you know. And interest is rising, like especially in like oolongs and this kind of stuff. But why do you think engagement on the other side doesn't really correlate? Why do you think it's so low? Why do you think the community is so low? Why do you think it's so niche? And especially a misconception we had, like we thought, okay, in Germany, maybe people, because I'm German, right? So we set it up that in the beginning, we wanted to have the logistics in Germany. We thought, yeah, that's a huge market, 80 million people in Germany, and then you have Austria, you have all the surrounding countries. It's going to be great. Turns out, no, the US and Canada is much, much stronger, and the people are way ahead in the way they perceive tea, they understand tea, and so on and so on, or at least from an engagement level. And in Germany, it's a couple of guys, you know, who into this and who is socially active, and the rest is just not seen. It's crazy.
I would say one of I think my experience is more limited to the American tea industry. I kind of think it's a combination of tea being tea being an everyday thing for most people. Like I think most people, in the general public sense, they're gonna have a box of Lipton or something herbal they might drink when they're sick, and that's the only exposure they have to tea. And I think because it is so common and so accessible, in England and America and our culture, um, I just don't see it as like high fashion and beauty brands. Like if I follow like Rihanna and her clothing line, for instance, like I can buy everyday t-shirts, but I can't just go buy her stuff every day. That's expensive. And I think given that tea is so uh I don't want to say cheap, like in the fact it's cheap, but like more like affordable and everybody has access to it. I think the uniqueness of seeing it on social media is kind of like dwindled in a sense. Not saying that's not unique and it's not special, but like imagine if like every person who bought tea at the grocery store started a tea account. There'd be millions of tea accounts of people posting tea bags. And I kind of think that's why it's not really like blown up as much, because it's just so accessible.
Say something.
Oh, I'm still digesting.
she's still digesting.
I think that's some of it. I think the industry has something else to do with it too. I don't think the tea industry harbors that type of attitude like beauty brands. Like I know a friend, she's a makeup artist and she does makeup in her apartment. And she has like 80,000 followers, but she quit her full-time job for the ad revenue she made by reviewing makeup from beauty brands. But like the beauty industry creates that. That's marketing from the industry as a whole. The tea industry as a whole, they don't market that way. I think tea, in a sense, when it comes to technology, is really behind. And I think the industry has a disconnect with what the consumers want. I remember boba tea, as an example,
What do you
blew
think
up.
is it that consumers want then?
Hold up. I want to say boba tea, for instance, is an example, right? Where everyone wanted it and places popped up everywhere, but massive tea brands didn't quite click. Like maybe we should sell boba until like a decade later. I know matcha had a massive boom in America, but Starbucks, as an example, they didn't carry matcha till like a decade after the matcha boom. And now it's like every day. And I think there's so many.
Then what do you think is the next big thing?
But I'll answer. I'll wrap this up. But I want to say, I think tea is so rooted in tradition that when a trend happens and moves along, the industry is so slow to respond because it's so set in its like traditional ways that it will hinder the way that the industry works. Like if there's so many massive tea companies I've talked to and like going to conventions and expos, and they will say, we don't see the value on posting to social media because we didn't grow up with social media and it's relatively new. And I think it's just kind of getting the out with the old and with the new. Like that's why the industry doesn't move as fast. For America, at least. I can't speak for other markets, but for the American tea market, that's how I see it. Sorry, that was a long answer.
I appreciate it. It's really nice to see you put a lot of there's body to it. There's substance. You know, it's not just like an impulse or like an opinion that you voice. It's more like rooted in experience. It's a good thing. You know, I give you full disclosure, like the first few snippets that I saw from your content, I thought, okay, he's just a funny guy, you know? And I think for new people, maybe it doesn't, and you are a funny guy, maybe, but that doesn't translate well. Maybe just as some food for thought, like I would love to see, not just on your blog, but in the posts you drop on Instagram, more criticism and more of this what you give us right now, what you present right now, you know, in between. It can be a mix up. Like, I mean, I don't want to tell you what to post, like don't get it the wrong way, but there's a lot of happy stuff, you know, and people who are not super into it, they might overlook, or they might not really like get how much valuable information and how much like substance there actually is, you know, because that's by nature. Like, so that's just how social media works. Like, you have those few seconds, you know, and if something is longer than like a reel is longer than 10 seconds, people already, you know, oh, so boring, and then swipe, you know. So it's very, very difficult to get your message across. But yeah,
I definitely try. I know I'm not critical of the tea industry until I get pissed off. I hate to say that. Every single time I've been critical and have called out the industry, it's because a company made me so irritated. I felt like I had to go vent about it. So like 99% of the time.
What is the last time, and of course don't need to say names, but one of the last times that like big time triggered you and made you feel like, man, like you exploding? Can you give an example? Not to shit on other companies, just I'm really curious.
This is I'm moody at times. Like I have moments where it's like consistent. Like lately it was yesterday.
Well, that's recent.
Maybe it'll happen again tonight after we hang up. But but no, like 90% of the time I'm just like, I have my tea tray here, and I have like my little table, and I have my laptop or my TV over here. And I just sit and drink tea, and I'm happy. And I 90% of my thought process behind tea is like, I'm having a great day today. So like when I post stuff, like I want it to be entertaining and humorous, but It's in those like rare occasions that happen weekly where I get ticked off, where I'm like, I need to go vent about this on my blog, you know?
Makes me more and more think your tea blog is your therapy.
Sometimes, but I want to be constructive at least, because I think of people like my aunt who like go to the grocery store and buy something on the shelf, and like she doesn't know the industry enough to research it to know who she should be supporting. And I would think my aunt does not want to support bad people intentionally. So I think tea bloggers owe it to the everyday consumer to speak out about the wrong side of tea, to protect people like my aunt, who she has a good heart. She doesn't want to support bad people, and she doesn't know it because she doesn't have the option to know it, or she might not even know there's another world behind it. And I think that's why more tea bloggers really need to speak up. And you asked me earlier about trends. What's the next trend I see happening? I don't know, because it's funny. I didn't realize like turmeric lattes would be a thing. Then they popped up everywhere and they fell apart overnight. But the one trend I want to see is like more London fogs. I think more places should carry them. I love London fogs. I have a bias towards Earl Grey, iced Earl Grey. So I hope that's a trend that maybe I will like bring the energy that will make it become a trend one day. I don't know. I just hope it does. I don't. I said a lot of words.
That's a weird one.
I know.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
From your observation, because there are a lot of tea bloggers that write articles, and how many percentage of articles you've seen there really have real content and really some words that you really appreciate? And how do you think, if you find this kind of article, do you think they're still easily to be seen, or most of them actually, they're lost in the ocean, internet ocean? Yeah, this is why I'm curious.
I think consistently there's 2 or 3 bloggers at a time that I've read where I think this is groundbreaking journalism. This is an amazing article. But the thing is, so many tea bloggers and amazing ones, they come and go like every 3 or 4 years. Every like 2 or 3 years they'll drop off. So when someone drops off, like there'll be like a new blogger that'll come up. So it's like there's a rotation, I guess, because some of my favorite tea bloggers dropped off years ago and they're never coming back. So I think just not like as a whole, but at any given point there's 2 or 3. And I think a lot of the important work they do will maybe get shared like throughout social media in a very limited space, but it does get lost in the content feed. Like it really does. And I think some of the important work that I've seen that gets lost is because it doesn't get talked about again. And it's just one drop in an ocean. I think we need more drops in that bucket, or in that ocean, so to speak, to really make a huge difference. It just stinks because I've noticed as a tea blogger, all the tea bloggers I've met who've really pushed for change and spoken out about the industry, it was all at different times. Like if we had all of them together in one moment, there could be more force for change. But so many tea bloggers drop off that it's just one voice and it drops out. They don't stay with it. And I think it's just really unfortunate.
What about the second part of our show? Cody is gone. You still? Oh, the camera just cut out, and exactly at the moment where I said, "What about the second part? What about the second part of our show as a follow up?" And then your screen went black, and I thought, "Oh, okay, that's an answer."
Um, like second part of, can
to
you?
just continue, like repeat, and like talk more, because I feel we still have like so much to talk, and it could be, endless, but I don't want to like make this one like too long, because uploading like a 2-hour session,
Fair.
it makes more sense to kind of like split it up and repeat, if you're interested, if you enjoy it, and if you're up for it.
I'm down to come back, but I want to end on one note. When so many tea bloggers that I've seen who speak out against the industry and they drop out of blogging, there's so many tea bloggers that will still support the toxicity, and so many people that will support the toxicity. So I just think, as a general rule, to really see real change in the industry, we need people to be vocal, and we need them to be consistent. And it's not the individual person that drops out. We need consistency from people who are in it in the long haul, because we don't see that consistency.
It reminds me of, when I hear you talk, it reminds me of Stockholm syndrome. Do you know this? Like,
Oh yeah.
the person that abuses you, the person that puts you down, and then you get out of this, but you get back to that person and kind of like even have thoughts of gratitude. Oh, that was so great. Thank you for the experience. Thank you for teaching me. And I think that's like in many situations is a absolutely weird thing, and it reminds me of this, because it's so obvious that a lot of those companies, I mean, now I'm starting to repeat myself, but it's really like that, don't have like great intentions, and yet people go there, buy their stuff, and even post it on social media and go like, oh, look, this great tea from XYZ company, kind of like knowing, no, man, it's actually cheap shit. You paid $5 for this. It can't be healthy. It can't be good. It can't be clean, but you make it look like, and you support that company as repeating
Exactly.
myself, as I said, but yeah, that's how it is. And I'm really thinking about it every day. How can we A, let go and not let it bother me, and B, kind of like show people that there's different choices,
Exactly.
What tea are you drinking?
let me give a 10-minute answer. No.
I give you 20.
Let me give an answer without breathing in between sentences. No, I was drinking milk oolong. I'll hold it up.
Milk oolong.
I've depleted it. There's no flavor left in it. Oh.
Is it really milky? I've never had it. Is it really like?
Is it Jinshan cultivar? Milk. When you say milk oolong.
I don't know the cultivar, but I think it's this one's flavored, so it's not like it was natural.
Have you ever tried?
I think I didn't really check this word, but just from my experience, the milky oolong is usually use the Jinshan cultivar from Taiwan, and because the cultivar has milky flavor, that's why. And usually they make for lighter oxidation oolong tea. And in Taiwan we don't use this word. Yeah, so it's I think it's English.
Caters to Western people's understanding. But yeah, I'm curious. Like if I came across, I would like to try, but I never tried.
This one's artificially flavored, but I think they're fun. I don't take them too seriously, but I think they're fun for the sake of it.
Cody, that was great. It was we could really like go get breakfast, sit down again, and continue to talk. But yeah, as I said, I think it's better probably to split it up, and would be really, really cool if we could repeat this, and not repeat, expand, build, and say it again. I couldn't hear.
Oh, count me in. I'm down.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It's those, you know, like little light rays of light when sitting in front of Instagram like every single day and checking stuff, and then you find those over time, every couple of weeks or months, you find that person that you feel like, oh, that's a nice connection, you know. And so far with Neldon, it felt similar. It's also like a super, super cool guy with a lot of like huge knowledge base about tea. And earlier we had an episode with Kevin, the Gentle Path Walker is his social media name. He's a very small account, like I think like 250 people following him. He lives in British Columbia, and now he ventured off to he bought a van and he's going around British Columbia to serve tea on the road, you know. And he gave up his home, kind of like he moved out, and he had a super beautiful home with like direct view to the Pacific Ocean to have tea ceremonies and offer tea. And that's, you know, those accounts are so small, but the story behind it is so interesting, and it's so significant, it's so powerful. And it just, yeah, if we, through this thing here, you know, like uploading those episodes, and even if just like 50 people watch it or 100, that would be great. You know, if just someone hears about it and then it helps someone, that's kind of like why we do this as a closing statement. And yeah, I hope we find more people like you. And if we don't find anyone else, we just always come back to you, you know, and we make this thing a 10 episodes. Yeah, the Oolong drop. Yeah.
You don't want me every time. You want to keep your audience, not run it away.
Yeah, it's a good one. So yeah, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. What are you gonna do with the rest of the evening?
Go to bed.
Okay. Then we're gonna start our day. I hope the tea doesn't like push you too much, because I remember actually during evening you don't really drink. So apologies if it's us who triggered you. But yeah, we're gonna have breakfast and then start our day, and then edit the video, probably see what the day brings.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, so we're gonna say, if you don't, I don't know if you want to include what I'm about to say in the video. Everything,
it's raw.
Oh, whenever you post it, let me know and I'll share it.
Yeah, that will be super nice. And yeah, I'll post all the stuff, your social media and blah 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 blah. You know. So again, thank you very much. It was super fun, and we stay in touch. I will send you messages and annoy you with questions and little hellos and waves and emojis. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much. Well, I really appreciate like your energy.
You have good energy. Yeah, that's the most interesting part, really. Besides all the tea talk, it's just fun to be with you. And especially, and I need to say that as a really last thing, after reading through your blog posts, like this 8-year anniversary thing, and then talking to you, I think, like, honestly, the one thing I want to tell you, there's nothing wrong with you. People need to question them, you know? Like, what's wrong with them, you know, to kind of like treat you the way they treat you, you know? That's really, but yeah, let's leave it there.
I have a lot of problems. I'm my own problem too.
We all have it. We all do, you know. Okay, Cody, thanks again, and have a good night.
Oh, thank you guys.
Bye-bye.